everybody. Welcome to another live stream here from AutoCrit. I hope you're excited for more updates for the Holiday Writing Challenge. We kicked it off last week. If you have not joined the Holiday Writing Challenge, the link is right here below for you to get involved. It is free to join. And yeah, sign up. It's an opportunity to be involved in our YouTube stream. At the very end of this, we'll have 10 winners that get picked, and we'll read them live on air. Very exciting. And of course, it's a chance to win some amazing prizes. Yes. Some really terrific prizes coming along. Maybe a lifetime subscription to AutoCrit, perhaps. It does not got to spoil too much, but yes, I'll give that away. But yes, we have others coming as well. Some really great prizes and opportunities for you. This is going to be a whole lot of fun. Ultimately, the challenge is to write a holiday story less than 1,000 words. Okay. So we want you to be a little bit brief, perhaps. In fact, I was looking at the chat and we have somebody here, Christina, who has written 3,000 words, which, you know what? Maybe you wrote a fantastic story that you could submit to somebody to be put into an anthology or something like that, and that would be great. And it's still a win in the challenge, right? We've had that happen. I think Wendy, here's Wendy. I believe you have actually done that, right? You've submitted things to other anthologies and publications and gotten that done. So yes, one nice thing about a challenge is the way you win is by being involved, and it's by writing, because when you write, you have something. Kind of obvious, right? But if you have something, well, then you have something potentially to improve upon, shop around, find out if other people are interested. It's momentum, right? Momentum is key in terms of any creative hobby or profession or whatever it is that your writing career is at this point. But momentum is key. We have MJ written 2 sentences, so you're just getting started. Alexandria, the same. Polly Messina halfway on first draft. Yeah, it's all over the place, but that is fine. You still got more time. You got more time. You have until a couple of weeks. I'm gonna have the date in a second. Yes, the 17th. The 17th is the date. Yes, less than 1,000 words. Another thing that we have, another rule we have is no generic descriptions. And you might be wondering, perhaps you're new to this channel, how do I know what a generic description even is? Well, thankfully, we can answer that question with the AutoCrit Writing Desk. Hold on, let me go back here. Yes, no generic descriptions. We can answer that with the AutoCrit Writing Desk. Now, because you signed up for this challenge, you now have access to the AutoCrit Writing Desk. Look at that. Poof. I know. And you can, inside the AutoCrit Writing Desk, run a report and find out where your generic descriptions are. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up really quick here. Here's my AutoCrit Writing Desk. I'll zoom in a bit more so you can see it. It might display a little bit differently, but I'm just trying to get the words to show up there. This is one of my old books, but if I go to word choice, excuse me, and then you hit the generic descriptions, you hit this button, and it's going to load this report. Now, all of our reports are not available for free members, but generic descriptions is. So not only can you use this during the writing challenge, you can come back at any time and look up generic descriptions inside the writing desk. Look at that. So the nice thing about the writing desk is it does compare you to normal. And this is helpful because maybe you don't want to be normal. I mean, I don't sometimes, right? So maybe you wouldn't care if large is used a lot more than normal because maybe that's just a verbal tick of your character. You just like the word large. Who knows, right? But it tells you what is normal. So it would say, in comparison to what it would expect, it would expect you to use the word about 10 times. You use it 24. And in general, large is a rather vague term. It's not that specific. It tells you it's maybe bigger than something small, but it's not too it can often be propping up something that is not a strong enough noun. So you could say it was a large building. It might be better to say it was a mansion. It was a skyscraper, right? Because that's clearer to the audience than large building. Now, when it comes to a holiday story, we want to get into the details, right? We want to feel like we're there. That is a big component of holiday writing. And later, I'm going to talk a little bit more about just writing holidays in general and tips for tricks for that. But ultimately, for this challenge, we need this number to say zero. Zero. None. You get that? Zero. Okay, just want to be clear. So, yes, we don't want any generic descriptions at all. What you'll probably find is you have some verbal tics. One of the ones that comes up a lot for me was looks and look. That's a generic sort of word, right? Look could mean it just tells you somebody is viewing something. There's a lot of different ways to describe that. You could say observe, gaze, gawk, ogle, leer. So you have opportunity to use a different verb there than look and get more specific. So again, it helps your writing. It's going to help you earn spots on the page. We're not just making you jump through some hoops for the sake of the challenge. You will find it to be a valuable exercise, and that's what we love to do here in those challenges. So everybody has access to that. If you sign up for the challenge, you can go into the writing desk and you can run that report. And yes, no generic descriptions. The other rule is it must be holiday related, but it can be any holiday. So I know we have the whole like Christmas motif going on, but obviously not everybody celebrates Christmas. Or maybe you think, well, a lot of people write Christmas stories. I want to write about Arbor Day. Go ahead, write that Arbor Day story. It does not matter. Maybe you write fantasy and you're like, well, my world doesn't celebrate Christmas. Well, what does your world celebrate? Tell me about their culture. We're going to get into that, like I said, in a minute when we talk about how to write about holidays. But yes, the holiday could be fictitious. It does not have to be real, right? It could be a sci-fi world or et cetera, et cetera. Let me look at some other updates here. We have Elaine, 680 words, leaving off the steamy parts, which would send you over the limit. Ooh, some steamy holiday romance going on. I like that. My type of holiday. Mark, 177 so far. Fantastic, fantastic. You have 2 ideas and you're currently in limbo. Well, you do have some time to pick it. However, keep in mind, it's only 1,000 words, right? Why not write both? Why not both? It's like that GIF. Why not both? Sure. Fantastic. You have generic description and dialogue. No, no, I'm sorry. No, it's not within the rules. It can't be anywhere. I know we do have that really cool feature where you can see where the dialogue is and everything. And maybe you would decide as an author, that's how people tend to talk. They talk generically. But for the purpose of this, we are going to be a little bit, maybe you could call it contrived. You'll just have to indulge us. But I don't want that kind of language even in the dialogue. The characters will need to speak in a more specific way. Okay. So just work on that. Let me see what else we got here. Can I show you in where the thesaurus is? I would love to do that, of course. So the thesaurus. If you want to find the thesaurus, let me close this report because it's kind of distracting here at the moment. And I'm going to move out of the way because I'm blocking my little bar. Oh, it's right there. So the thesaurus is this, it almost looks like a tablet, right? It's right here above the G, which is our Grammarly logo because we actually integrate with Grammarly for our grammar reports. So if you have a Grammarly account, you can just integrate it in there. And yep, and you can log in and you can use your Grammarly account and do all that, or you can run their grammar report. But anyway, yes, the source is right there. Of course, if you're not a Grammarly member, there is a free level of grammar services, so don't worry about that. You'll still get some grammar feedback. But yes, the source is right here. So what you would want to do is you would want to find, let me go ahead and pull back up that report. So imagine I have a situation where I have a look and I want to decide if I want to keep it. I'm going to find a good example here. Okay, so I nod, but I can't shake the haunting look on her face. Maybe a little bit hard to read. It's kind of small there. But what I would do is it's highlighted here already, right? So highlighted, and I would go ahead to the thesaurus and I would take a look at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And now it's going to look up look, and I see different synonyms. Now, the nice thing about our thesaurus is not only does it give you synonyms like any thesaurus does, but it is a smart thesaurus. So it actually looks at that word within the context of the sentence and tries to give you synonyms that make sense. Because there's words that have many different connotations depending on the context, right? Even something like look, uh, you know, uh, or looks would be one, because looks could be that they are looking at something, so he looks back, or it could be their looks were not very appealing, which means just the way they appear to you, right? And so it will give you a smart feedback on that. It'll give you words that make sense for that context, and you can just click on the word and it'll just drop it right in as well. All right, so I think that settles that there. Now, some of the reports that you see in the writer's desk, if you're looking around in there, you may notice they are locked if you're a free member. Currently, because we have the challenge going on, I am giving you a chance to try it all out for $1. So if you want to open up everything that we have to offer inside the writing desk, including the story builder and even the story analysis, so you could run your whole story at the end and see what the story analyzer would say about it. You can do all of that for $1. So there you go. Let's move on though. Remember, the deadline is at 12/17, December 17th at 11:59 p.m. So think of it as Monday, but really think of it as in 2 weeks. The submissions will open up in 2 weeks. It's best if I'm not 2 weeks, sorry, next week, excuse me. See, now I'm doing the thing where you overthink how much time you have, right? This is what happens to authors. Yes, next week is when submissions are going to open, and you'll have a few days in which to do so. You'll do that within the writing desk. I will show you how to do that next week. It is really simple. It's just hitting a simple button as well. And yes, there is a dictionary tab if you click on the thesaurus. So perhaps it'll give you a word and you're just not as familiar with it. Yes, you can also look up things in the dictionary as well. Your first holiday story was 3,000. So fast, had to start over. New story 700. See, now you got two stories. Look at that. Again, it's always a win if you have more things. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit today about just writing holidays in general. There's a certain amount of tact and skill and consideration you need to make when you write about holidays, and to get the most bang for your buck as well. Oh, somebody is asking, is there a twist? No, I can do the twist if you want. No, but no, we are not going to throw some sort of curveball at you. If you may be new to the channel, we often will do some crazy twist, but we will warn you about it when we do that. We don't generally just throw that out. So yeah, like this is not destination unknown. This is all you need to worry about. Okay. So when it comes to holidays in your stories, right? As soon as you mention holidays, you have a little bit of leeway as to what their significance is. Is this background information, which could be incredibly helpful to tell me a little bit about the world? Like, what do they value in the world? What's their cultural heritage? What's their traditions? How do people interact with each other as human beings or orcs or whatever you have, right? Or is it like the thing itself, right? Is this a Christmas Carol where the holiday is being elevated and it's so integrated into the plot that it would be difficult to remove it? Okay. Now, if you are going to market yourself as this is a holiday story, it is better, of course, if it's essential detail rather than just background. If I could feel, well, the story could have taken place at any time, you chose this time for reasons. No, I don't think that's really the best. And for something like this contest, I certainly recommend that you make it essential, that you make this about the holiday. That it really wouldn't make sense if the holiday wasn't a component in the story. I cannot guarantee what is going to win because I'm not even the judge. It's going to be you, the studio audience. But I would imagine because if you think about successful holiday stories in the past, that it will end up being a story in which the holiday plays a major role. And it is something, again, you wouldn't be able to do unless it happened on that holiday, right? It's just, you can't imagine any other way. So you have a choice with how you integrate it. Holiday stories are often comfort food. This is one reason why when I said I was doing a holiday challenge, there were a fair amount of you that were like, "Well, I don't know. Can I do this? Can I do that?" Because maybe you were thinking, "I don't want to do something formulaic. I don't want to do a Hallmark card holiday story, right?" Nothing wrong with those. Comfort food is great. I love Kraft macaroni and cheese, right? But maybe that's not what you want to do. You want to be the gastronomical chef coming up with new things in the kitchen, right? Nothing wrong with that for the purpose of this challenge, and that's also something you would always have to consider when you're writing a holiday. There are stories like Christmas Carol, which is very much leaning into the symbols and what the holiday represents to a lot of people. There's also something like, I don't know, Silent Night, Deadly Night, for a lack of a better word, or Nightmare Before Christmas, where you're playing with the holiday. You are going against the you're going against all everything. You are skewering it. Bad Santa, right? You are skewering the holiday. It's still something that needs the holiday for the story to unfold in the way it does, and it wouldn't mean the same, but it's, satire on the holiday or whatever. So another thing to consider is your audience, right? For the purpose of this challenge, I did not want to limit your audience, so I'm okay either way. But, again, if you're trying to market yourself out in the world, often when it comes to holiday works, people are in fact looking for comfort. We associate holidays with wonderful times, beautiful sentimental sentimental memories, which is kind of redundant, but family values, all those things. And so, if you came out there with a cozy mystery about Christmas and it ends up being kind of bah humbuggy, skewering the commercialization and and the materialism of Christmas. I don't know if that's really what the audience would want, right? What they really want is to cozy up with a hot chocolate and read a cute story about how the Christmas almost got ruined, and it won't, right? So keep that in mind when you explore holidays, but you certainly have both options available to you. You can totally do blood and gore no matter what you want, right? Because there are people that want to see that. Horror is a genre in of itself that's about bringing discomfort to things that are comfortable. That's its whole. That's it's not its only point, but that's one of its major points, right? It's trying to make you see things in a different way, kind of like how a stand-up comedian tries to find the humor in everything, including things that you shouldn't laugh about, right? Like if they're a very controversial or provocative stand-up comedian, well, they'll make you laugh, and you're like, I don't even know if I should be laughing right now. And then that almost makes you laugh all the more, right? And it's the same kind of thing with horror, right? Horror will take something that you know and love, and it will make you scared of it and disturbed by it and concerned about it. And that's its job as a genre for sure. All right. Characters. Characters, of course, are paramount, right? Anytime you're talking about any fictional work, I push, they are the number one way that the audience connects with your work. I truly believe that. And when it comes to a holiday, you have an opportunity to get into the mindset of the characters and to explore characters because it's giving them something to react to. Like how in like the movies, or like on the classic stereotype of a Shakespearean actor, right? Is somebody like sitting there looking at a piece of fruit, right? Or the villains like Maleficent and Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty, who has the Raven and she's always talking to the Raven, right? It's helpful to have something to react against because that means the character gets to talk about their views on the world without just monologuing, right? They're talking to something. And so a holiday gives them an opportunity to share that. So you might have a bah humbug character, right? The character that's like, isn't this all just a bunch of hooey and why do we care so much? And it's just a day like anybody else. And that tells you something about that kind of person, right? Do we really need to worry about these family traditions? Can't we shake things up? Can't we do things differently? Is it really worth that effort? How come that person gets more than me? There's a lot of things that get lumped into a holiday. It's a highly charged emotional event. You often have a lot of friends and family much closer to you in an intimate way that you don't normally. So any sort of friction you have tends to get magnified. And so you have a lot of opportunity to get deeper into the characters. So keep that in mind. It should be opinionated. It should not feel like, here we have the humans in their native habitat setting up the Christmas tree, which is a signifier of, and I'm not saying you write quite that poorly, but I'm just saying don't don't even dip into that, right? Make it to where when somebody sees the Christmas tree, it's like, what does that mean to them? Does it mean it's a whole lot of work? Does it mean it's a fire hazard? Does it mean it's a symbol of the money they wish they spent on them versus on decorations? Is it all of the memories of their family encapsulated in little trinkets around a beautiful piece of nature? What does it mean to them? Because there's so much you can react to in a holiday, right? Little traditions. Feel free to throw in specific things that people would do that not everybody does. Everybody might make might put up a Christmas tree. Maybe this person does something different, right? And that tells you something about the character. It tells you they're an original person. It tells you, how they go against the grain, and it also tells you how they're an original person, not just that they go against the grain, but in what manner they go against the grain. So, yes, what makes it their holiday? Why do they do it? And it could be as simple as they do it because everybody else does. What does that tell you about the character, right? It tells you they're a follower. It tells you they're not somebody who stirs the pot. It tells you there's somebody who's not confrontational, right? But maybe they are. Maybe they are confrontational. Maybe they don't celebrate Christmas. They celebrate some sort of anti-Christmas event, right? Somebody was mentioning Festivus, right? Maybe they celebrate something and they don't want any sort of religious connotations to it, any baggage, and so they just come up with something else. They come up with some sort of counter programming. Sure, but what's important again is to not miss out on the opportunity. Again, holidays are one of those times that you can learn a lot about somebody. So let it be a time that we learn a lot about those characters, and try not to make it a generic this could happen anywhere sort of thing. Like you have a chance to get more interesting and quirky and all of those things. You can't write an anthropological approach to Christmas and get you pelted with tomatoes. But I mean, essentially, you could have somebody, like I don't know what your perspective is on it, right? Because maybe your perspective is maybe it's not the best for society that we do it, right? Well, you could still have a character that represents that viewpoint in your story, and that could be kind of interesting. And maybe there's even a debate involved. I mean, you decide how you want to deal with it. That gets into the comfort, though, right? That gets into, well, now I'm reading a book that's making me question whether or not I should even do this holiday, which I have so many joyful memories and it's so wonderful. And you're just being a dark cloud of over analytical nonsense, right? So, yes, you do have to keep your audience in mind. But on the other hand, that could be very interesting. It could be a different take we haven't seen as much. Uh, when it comes to senses, smell is the most sentimental. It's easy to remember because of scent, right? But smell really is a nostalgic sense. There is something about it. I don't know scientifically why that's the case, but I mean, even newborns, they tell you, you want to get like skin to skin on them very quickly because of the smell of the parents, right? And them getting attached to the parents, and the babies can detect the smell of their mother and things like that. From what I understand, again, not a biologist, but that I believe is the case. But yes, it's just a very primal thing, right? Negative or positive. When you think of Christmas, you often think of the smell of the pine, the smell of the foods, the smell of the fire, or whatever those different things are. Of the smell of the gingerbread cookies, or and that can honestly mean a lot more than the visual, particularly in the mind of the reader. It can put them in the scene a lot more. And this is particularly interesting if the sentimental scent is a little bit unusual, because then you have a chance for contrast. It's like, well, most people's Christmases smell like pine trees. My Christmas always smells like horse manure because I like to go and take my horses out for a winter stroll or something. I don't know what it is, right? And even though for most people that would be an unpleasant smell, for me, it's the smell of nature, it's the smell of peace, it's the smell of calm, right? And that would tell me something about that character, and that's an interesting viewpoint that don't have, right? I don't live in on a farm, so my view of it would be more negative, but it would be interesting. Oh, this is cute. Yes, this is how you make your Thanksgiving turkey. You just add spices until it smells like the way you think Thanksgiving smells. Ah, I love that. But yes, those sort of beautiful things are important to include and can really add a lot of value to the scene. And the reason I bring it up is because smell can be a little neglected. Most people would know, yeah, you want to get into the senses, they're going to get into the sounds, we're going to get into the sights, we might even getting into the touches. Smell can be kind of lost, and of course, taste is a sense you don't get to use as much in fiction often because how often are we tasting things? Christmas, of course, you have the opportunity for that as well. Um, it's not uncommon that when you read a Christmas story, you end up hungry afterwards because part of Christmas is the feasting. And any holiday, of course, a lot of them are about feasting or breaking a fast to have a feast, you know. Food, of course, is part of it, and making the audience crave food is not necessarily a bad thing. You're making them feel something. You're affecting their mind. It's a good thing. Yes, what makes it their holiday? What is disagreed about? So I brought this up, right? The different conversations. Now, it could be a quite strong, I don't even like Christmas. I'm from a different religious perspective. I don't have any religious perspective, whatever it is, right? Or it could be something like the manner of which, right? When you have two families, maybe they merge together because of marriage or something like that, and you have in laws. Well, there's often the way we used to do it at my house is this. Well, the way we used to do it in my house is that. And that can create conflict. And the fun thing about this is it just gives something else going on. Advent holidays are a great subplot to what is happening because it just makes the characters having to do something. Again, we're back to the speaking to the piece of the fruit, right? It's the piece of fruit that the characters constantly get to interact with, and it gives you something for them to do. What has happened in the past? Now, I mentioned the sentimentality of like things like the smells and the foods, but it's not just as simple as it reminding you of the thing itself. Of course, you'll be like, I'm always reminded of Christmas every time I smell a pine tree or whatever. Sure. But what does that mean? Let's go a little bit deeper, right? And there's a possibility that this is not all positive, right? Maybe you have PTSD because there's some terrible thing that happened to you. I know my son ended up hitting a hornet's nest on Thanksgiving. It was probably one of the scariest things in my life, to be honest. It was just horrible. He was covered in them, and we had to deal with it and everything. He's fine, but it was a terrible event. And so this Thanksgiving, I was like, he was like, I hope that I don't have hornets again, right? That was just in his mind. He's not very old. He's 7. So, that's his memory for Thanksgiving. And hopefully over time that changes. But I don't know. It might be one of those indelible memories. And every time he comes around Thanksgiving, he's going to think about the time that he was swarmed by hornets, right? And yeah, this is the point, right? Was Chris It's like It's a Wonderful Life, right? Where his brother ends up in the ice. I don't think that actually happens on Christmas. But anyway, I don't remember that timing in the movie. But it could be something like that, right? Some sort of tragic event happened. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you proposed on Christmas. So it's not just about the terrible things that happened. This wonderful thing that happened, right? Maybe your dad, if you have an abusive father, Christmas might be even rougher for you because you're seeing all the families and everybody's getting together, and that was the day that it stung the most that he wasn't around, or that whatever, he had his issues. So keep that in mind too. You can have that melancholy and not ruin the comfort, right? Because here's the thing, like my son, you can overcome these things, right? You can say, I am not going to let that bad experience in the past keep me from enjoying the holiday now. I get to control this, right? I get to be the master of my own destiny, right? Starting to sound like a motivational speaker here. But that's kind of a lot of the times the thought of a holiday story, right? Sense comfort and sentimental or whatever. Chicken soup for the soul. So yeah, you could, but the fact that something bad did happen, right? The fact that it's not all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows and everything's going perfect can make it feel more realistic, right? There is timing. Maybe somebody was born on Christmas. We talked about that last night in the mystery club. People who are born around Christmas feel a little bit yeah because they don't get to have two parties, right? They feel like their Christmas party is shared, and they don't maybe feel like they get their own Christmas gifts. They have to get birthday slash Christmas gifts, and that's frustrating. Oh, here we go. See, my son was born on Christmas. Exactly, right? So that's kind of a mixed blessing in some ways, right? Because maybe obviously having the kid on Christmas is nice, but then it's like, well, you did miss out on Christmas, right? And now forevermore it's kind of intertwined. And did you kind of like the separate, and it's an interesting thing to consider, is all I'm talking about. You never got birthday wrapping paper. Oh, I guess Wendy, you were born around Christmas as well. Yep. All right. Now, another thing to keep in mind is what else is going on. We do not want the holiday in our holiday story to just take over the world. Holidays kind of do that, right? It's like you focus on it and it's like all you care about is like, okay, like if you're prepping food, it's like, do I have all the ingredients? Am I doing it? Am I keeping on schedule? Did I buy all the presents? Did I assemble the toys for the kids? Did I remember, like it can really take over. On the other hand, life does move on, right? And something that could be conflicting with Christmas or a holiday could be a highly effective thing to put in your book and make it not so flat. Because you know how it's like in holiday movies or holiday stories, it almost feels like all that anybody cares about is Christmas. It's almost like, like the bed quilt chest where it's like, do two women talk about something other than a man? It's like, do two people talk in your Christmas story about something other than Christmas? And hopefully the answer is yes, because otherwise, no, it does feel a little bit like over the top, right? It doesn't just completely steamroll and take over absolutely everything. So if you feel like that's kind of happening, and keep in mind life does go on. Not everybody even is celebrating the holiday and things like that. When it comes to juxtaposition, this is where I was talking about the comfort, right? Sometimes the holiday doesn't fit the current situation. So this isn't like life is going great and now let's get the holiday and life will continue to be great just all the more. No, maybe it's right now I'm having a horrible time in life, but I'm going to make Christmas work, right? That could be a very moving story. Or the opposite. I'm having a wonderful time in life and I want to keep the momentum going, but having to get all my family here is going to make things difficult. I'm in the middle of a hot and heavy relationship and it's going fantastic. And now I get to have all the family come in and it might scare my boyfriend and all of that, right? So, keep in mind, where does the holiday fit in with essentially what else is going on, right? Is this a holiday that is badly timed, as it were? It's not in the right place for the person. I mean, I have that sometimes. I love holidays, but it'll be sometimes where I'm like, if only it could just be a week later. Like, really, could it just move? Because I love it and I want to do it right, and it means something, and I'll feel really mad if I don't do the holiday. However, I don't have the bandwidth for it right this second, right? I just can't. Yeah, no, that can happen, right? And again, that the fun thing about that is you end up with a sort of um melancholy. It's not like, oh yay, it's Christmas, or bleh, it's Christmas. It's like, well, I wish and that can be a fun, a more interesting and fun perspective to write, rather than being quite so flat. So, when it comes to holidays that you might invent or even discussing holidays in general, keep in mind what tends to form in holidays. We have the historical reasons why people celebrate holidays, right? Do they do it because their ancestors did it, their friends and family did it? It's the thing you do in your country. Okay. Is it because it represents some moral point to them? And of course, it could be all three of these things. Does it represent some moral point to them? So it's not just that my parents did it. My parents did it, and it's a good tradition because it reminds me of X. Right? Imagine something like Thanksgiving. It's not just that your parents did it. It might be it. My parents did it, and I want to have an attitude of gratitude, and I want to pass that on to my kids. Right? And so it's both. And then, of course, you have religious connotations. Of course, with Christmas, you certainly do. But again, this would be the sort of thing with a lot of other holidays as well, of course, Hanukkah and other holidays. And yeah, so then it carries even greater connotations because it represents your faith. It represents, your deep rooted moral and world views, right? And depending on what is the origin of this holiday for this person celebrating the holiday, they of course are going to react very differently. If it's just a matter of family tradition, well, you might not care very much if, well, we're not going to put out the nativity scene. Mom always did it, but it's so much work. And yeah, Whereas if it's a religious connotation, you're like, well, no, of course, I have to have that out there. That is a symbol of the story that I'm trying to remind myself of. And I can't neglect that. Then it's not even Christmas anymore. What is this? So, keep that in mind with your characters. And of course, if anything were to befall anything, the same kind of thing, right? If, something breaks, what's the significance of it, right? If it's historical, well, it's connection to the past. If it's a moral one, it's harder because it represents something that you believe is true. If this is the symbol of appreciation or gratitude or uh, believing in something bigger than yourself, then the fact that it breaks is more than just the fact that it's been in the family a long time, right? And then, of course, if it has religious connotations, that it's associated with a worship of a higher being or a call to something greater than yourself, well, then all the more so, like that's going to be even more devastating. So keep that in mind, right? Really look at what is under all of this, right? Try to get into the depths of things. It's a danger to think, well, holiday stuff is kind of simplistic and trite. And I'm not saying there aren't things like that, right? Because they're just kind of going through the motions. But if you think about some of the most powerful stories, there are very powerful stories that are like Christmas Carol, like even How the Grinch Stole Christmas, right? These are classic stories for a reason. Of course, the Grinch speaks to, maybe Christmas is something more than the commercialization of it, right? The celebration continues. And so, yes, the person can interact with the things and steal all the things and it doesn't matter, right? And that's the principle of the thing. And so again, it depends on the con. It depends on your perspective and your character's perspectives. Keep in mind, traditions outlast belief. So a lot of people in your story will do things and they don't know why. Like they don't think about it. How many things do you do and you don't really know why? If I asked you, if I said, "How do you celebrate this holiday?" and you said, "I do it," and I would say, "Why? What does it represent to you?" You might have to think about it. Now, maybe you have a great answer for everything because you're super analytical like me. But most people just aren't like that. And I'm not even criticizing people, right? This is just a natural thing. We just kind of go through the thing and it may even be that deep down we know what it means to us, right? We have a belief about it, but it would be very hard for us to vocalize it. The reason why I bring this up is not to just become a social anthropologist, but you should not have your characters be the best social anthropologists for themselves or psychoanalyzing themselves. Most people can't do that, right? Most people cannot tell you why they do a lot of things. It's like, I don't know. It just means a lot to me, right? I can't even put it into words. It's too complicated, right? Just keep that in mind because let's imagine the ornament breaks from the Christmas tree, right? And as the author, that ornament is a representation of gratitude, let's say, whatever, right? And so in the character's mind, it's almost like gratitude just got destroyed, sort of, right? Because it's a symbol and they want to remember it, and now it's been ruined, and it's like, how do they remember it otherwise? But in that moment, is the character going to sit down and be like, wow, my iconic symbol of gratitude has been eradicated. Perhaps I need to find a new outlet to remember. Like, I mean, and obviously not in that kind of language, but no, they're not even going to think about that. They're just going to be very upset, right? And they won't even necessarily know why. And somebody else might come in, they're like, well, it's just a ornament. I can get another one. And they're like, no, that's not the point, right? It meant something to me. And they're like, well, and they won't necessarily be able to describe what that means, right? Now, we as the audience will be able to infer it because you know what it means. And I'm not saying you shouldn't know. You as the author should know, but the character doesn't necessarily know. And so unless you have some third person omniscient that's like, little did they know their Christmas tree represented, the everlasting nature of their religious beliefs, right? Or something. And unless you have that third party omniscient person come in, they wouldn't know that. So when it goes up in flames, it's not just a matter of the chaos of the house. It means so much more than even that. Yes, what has happened in the past. All right, so those are my thoughts for holiday stories. Feel free to go ahead and blitz in the chat any sort of questions you might have as well. I want to be here with you. If this has inspired you, maybe you're like, I didn't know if I want to write a holiday, but I do now. Oh, yes, sign up below. And I did mention a lot of Christmas because I'm assuming that's the direction a lot of people are going to go. But trust me, it can be about anything, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Earth Day, Valentine's Day, National Hot Dog Day. I don't care. It it is just about a holiday. But keep in mind, particularly if you do something like National Hot Dog Day, right? It should be something that means something to that character. It should truly be a holiday to them. And I'm sure there are some people that National Hot Dog Day might be a holiday, right? I have a friend who celebrates Back to the Future Day because it's the day that Doc Brown invented the time machine and he tries to marathon the movie and he gets very excited, and that's fine, right? It means something to him. Is that like a holiday for anybody else? I mean, there's few people, right? But like you could write that story, right? You could write the story about a character who has memorialized a fictitious date in a book they love, and that's their holiday. So feel free to think outside the box. I used Christmas as an example because it's a fairly broadly observed holiday, and so therefore a lot of people know about it. Ooh, you have a special holiday. You can't wait to tell me all about it. I'm excited. Fictitious holiday. That's great. Yeah, exactly. I would be totally happy if all 10 of them at the end were not even Christmas. I mean, I'm fine. Like, be creative, right? It's the holiday writing challenge. Okay. Tonight in the sci-fi slash fantasy club, we're going to take a look under the hood at stories on Amazon. Somebody was mentioning Life Day. Yeah, speaking of bad fiction, um, we are going to go through the back alleys of Amazon. What I like to do is I look at the last 30 releases and I look at books that are not selling very well. Because it's just why aren't they? And you might say, well, maybe just they haven't been discovered. The truth of the matter is Amazon's algorithm does do a pretty good job of putting books in the back that are not terribly well written. I do not know how it works. I do not work for Amazon, but it is helpful because what it can tell you is what not to do. And you can have a little bit of fun as well and really get motivated because you're going to be better than what a lot of people are putting out there. So it's a combination of a lot of things. It ends up being some fun. I think Tim is going to come on and help me out tonight. So that's going to be fun. One of our Autocrit members are always excited when people get involved. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing at 7 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, we have the Horror Club. We always have our accountability club as well, 11 a.m. on Monday, and that's a short little session that is designed to help you. That is not designed to distract you. It is just quick little exercises. Go ahead if you've come join the accountability club, give me a little shout out. It's quick little exercises to get your blood pumping, your creative juices flowing, and then it's a writing sprint. And so it's a great way to start the week if you can. So 11 a.m. on Mondays. And Mystery Mondays, every Mystery Monday at 8:30 p.m. You can join our motley crew of federal agents, apparently, who join us for that. Which is great because we all know that everybody who writes mystery are being investigated by the FBI already because of what we Google search. So, then you can talk to them directly and explain why you're looking up how to murder somebody in a hot tub. Okay. The point of view workshop. You might have noticed I've been talking about senses, getting into the mindset, ditching third party omniscient, all of that, third person omniscient, all of that. The deep point of view workshop is a way for you to practice those skills. Some of you, all access pass members, don't forget to sign up for it, enroll. It's going to begin Sunday night. Otherwise, you can join us down here below, the Deep Point of View workshop. It is 2 sessions. You have your option of coming Sundays at 8 p.m. or Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. And you can even come to all 4 if you want. Every session does have exercises. I tried to change up the exercises a little bit because hey, there are people that just love to come on and do these exercises. It gets their creative juices flowing. So I never know if people are repeating. So technically, you can come for all 4 sessions if you want. But this is a great way for you to practice this technique. If you're not sure what deep point of view is, the idea is we're trying to remove the filter of the author. We're trying to remove the filter of a narrator. We're really trying to immerse you into the viewpoint of the character and see the world from their shoes. It is the most common approach as far as I know right now in writing. It's certainly extremely popular and for good reason. It is highly effective. And it's easy to say, it is hard to do, right? It's easy to say, well, we're just going to take the perspective of somebody and make sure nothing is in there that they wouldn't know. But it gets harder the more you think about it. Like, what would they think about? Does that even make sense? Are we really seeing the world from their perspective, et cetera, et cetera? And there's a lot of great tips and tricks in there from Rain Hall, the author of the Writercraft book series as well. First chapter workshop. Yes, we had our first round of that. Some of you were there. So shout out to all of you. We have a encore of that workshop coming up on Thursday at 7 p.m. So do not miss that. You, of course, for those of you who already showed up to the first chapter workshop, you can come back. Again, I will mix up exercises. That's what I like to do. But yes, first chapter workshop. You readers tend to make an impression in about 7 seconds. And your first chapter is really well there, where they're going to cement that first impression. So you've got to get your foot out there. You got to get off on the right foot. You got to get your foot out there. Yeah. Remove that foot and just throw it out there. Now, you've got to get going on the right foot, right? You've got to present yourself in the most effective manner possible. So we go in the first chapter workshop. Tim can disappoint in 4. All right. Well, a little bit of self-deprecation I'll allow. I usually don't allow such comments, but you'll get a pass this time, Tim. But none of those disparaging comments around here. I'm not a fan. Got your goat head ready. I like that. I like that. All right. Just looking at some of these comments there. I'll go ahead and I'll wrap things up today. Thank you so much. It's only because of people like you I'm able to do what I love, which is talk about writing. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell for this YouTube stream if you haven't. We'll continue to have challenges. We'll continue to have these sessions where we go into the depths of writing. And if there's anything you'd like to see, you can go ahead and comment, right? We read the comments. Go ahead and comment. Let us know some of the different things that you would like to see on this YouTube channel. And yeah, we'd be happy to do so. Keep in mind, of course, we do have a lot of back catalog. So if you enjoyed this stream, if you enjoyed some of my thoughts, go back through the history, do some searches, right? We've got hours and hours of some fantastic some fantastic sessions, live sessions about different writing topics. But anyway, thank you very much. Somebody's asking, can you write in the form of a poem? You can. 1,000 words is a fairly long poem, but certainly there have been epics written much longer than that. So, yep, that is fine. And whatever format you want. That is fine. You can write it as a blog post. You can write it as a rap lyric. You can write it as a poem. This is a writing challenge. This is not a specifically short story must be, X challenge. 1,000 words of text, right? Keep in mind, unconventional writing may not have as much of a chance to win at the end. Remember the audience, this YouTube audience, right? Keep that in mind. But yes, you certainly can do whatever you want on that. Thank you very much for everyone. I'm glad you found it to be good info. I will see you around the AutoCrate community. You have a wonderful